Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi and I'm glad to welcome to the podcast and a big happy new year and welcome to 2022 to the man across the water, Monti C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Good evening, Desi. Happy New Year, lads.
Thanks for joining us, and of course our resident tactician is here, Hector Bandito. Good evening, Hector, and happy New Year.
Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Hopefully Ralph Malph can join us once he finishes his white van run. He's somewhere in deepest, darkest Stoke, no doubt. Or he could be at a works event in Whitehall. We're unsure at the moment where he is, but hopefully he may get the chance to join in. And of course, a big Happy New Year and best wishes for 2022 to our three listeners, Monty, Marco and Mike for Dundee. Hopefully they're all doing well. We've got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. We had a good wee pre-Christmas podcast, and thanks to everyone who enjoyed that. But catching up, Hector, I think you've been quite a happy man on judging by the Twitter feed, etc. Celtic doing early business in the January window, shocker.
I think we're all still in a state of shock, to be honest with you, including me being happy for a period of time.
It'll never last.
It'll never last, I know. But it's quite weird because we've been speaking about this in the last couple of podcasts about the three Japanese boys, and lo and behold, they sign. And not only that, they actually sign Hogmanay. So actually before the 1st of January. So that was really good news. It's the three guys that Ange had pinpointed really early, and to be fair at the club, they got it done. It couldn't have been easy this human, right? You know, the Japanese league had stopped, and obviously, you know, all the various paperwork that required for usually Europe or England, but usually more straightforward. So to get through all the various hurdles, get it done quickly was great, well done. And then not only that, there's strong rumours that they're trying to sign Jota, which would be a terrific statement of intent in Carter Vickers. Whether that comes off, we don't know, but fingers crossed. And they got the young Irish kind of prospect, Kenny. Thankfully, not the right back for Everton, who isn't Irish.
That was rather worrying at some point.
It was, and we all think, who's that guy? So the only one thing he tried to get the Australian, the looks Australian boy, but I loved his response. Just yesterday, wasn't it? He pretty much said, "Look, I'm not going to try and convince anyone to come here. If you don't want to come here, I'm not going to waste my time on you." And that was as simple as he had to put it to make his point. And I loved that. We don't chase him, don't mess about. Don't want to come, whatever reason it is, good luck to you, I'm off.
Yeah,
so,
well,
early days, sorry Desi, I was going to say early days, what are we now? We're almost midway through the month. He didn't say yesterday, no more signings. He said, right now, if something comes up, I can see us maybe getting one or two more in towards the end of the month. But so far, so good.
Well, you just made me think there, Monty, surely Ange missed a classic Swiss Tony opportunity. Signing for Celtic is like making love to a beautiful woman. Yeah, I mean, surely that could have really put the cat amongst the pigeons.
It would have been a unique and a first for a Celtic manager to quote Swiss Tony. Although Rodgers might have fallen into the modus operandi.
Swiss Tony with a haircut.
The smarm and the charm to go with it. No, I love that statement that Hector just touched upon. If you're not interested in coming here, I shouldn't need to sell you this football club and what it stands for, so move on, it's all right. And the young fella's obviously a decent prospect, a good player, he'll get more money at Borough. But if you think about it and walk it through logically, and this is something I never really can work out in my head. I understand wanting to play at the top level. I get that, top elite players. But at Celtic, you can win things. You can play in European football. To the post-Christmas stages, albeit at the mid-tier. And you'll have a level of pressure on you at a football club that by and large you won't get at most others, in that you're expected to win every week. and you have all the softer stuff around what we bring to it, and 60,000 and global fan base and all that. Why would you not want that if you're a professional footballer? Why would you trade that for mid-table mediocrity and a bit more money? Because the SPFL, the Championship's a good league, but really, are you going to get that type of pressure and that type of experience playing for Borough? The answer's no. So
I think Monti the Ange influence is something that, especially because I'm guilty of it probably as much as most people, that these are young guys, but they're 22-year-old, and if you see a 22-year-old, you know, you're in a restaurant or the office, back in the office days, you see it's just a young kid,
just a kid,
right? And that's what it is. So these agents who are out there, who are probably old bastards like us, right, manipulating them about an extra 10k, the influence they have on these young guys, I wouldn't be under it. I know you know this, right? But I think it's easy to sway them, take the extra 5k because they get a bigger cut as well. So I wouldn't really blame the player as much as maybe I did in the past.
Dembele seems to be the exception to that. Dembele's agent obviously plotted out a career path for him, and Celtic would be an interim step and a good step for him, where he wouldn't make the same amount of money that he could have got. I think, was it Spurs wanted him at the same time as
no, Spurs had agreed a deal. Spurs, I think, had agreed either 11 or 15 million, something like that. But the clause was he was to be loaned back to Fulham for the rest of the season.
Aye.
And they said no to that.
And that, you know, an agent who genuinely has the long-term career objectives of a client who's got potential in his mind is obviously a unique thing. So, no, I agree, Hector. And you're right. It's not the young fella's fault. At the end of the day, he'll go and he'll have a decent career. He may well be playing Premier League football next year. Best of luck to him. You know, let's be honest. Did you really?
I think it was very much a non-story. Wasn't it? It was like, suddenly we all saw that Scorpion kick goal and you get very excited and you suddenly imagine the next Tom Rogic turning up.
Aye.
I mean, like that kind of idea. And then it's like, and then suddenly from nowhere it went for Celtic linked with this guy to Celtic have signed this guy, the deal's done, because especially all over Twitter, Hector, everybody seemed to be coming out with this is done, and then the next day Borough may have a chance of sniping, like basically as if, and again Celtic have obviously had a chat and Ange's maybe had a personal chat with him and went, "You fancy coming here, we'll give you, say, I don't know, 10 grand a week or anything, right, don't know what the figures are," and he goes, "Leave it with me." Borough come in and go, "We'll give you 15 grand a week, we'll get a chance of playing in the English Premiership." And again, he'll probably get a good signing on, but he's got to get a good deal for himself. He's not exactly a young boy at 19 or 18, 19.
23, isn't he? 23.
He's played in America and stuff, so...
What I would say about this, though, right? And I think, going back to your opening point about the signings coming in, this was a sort of Brucey bonus, if that makes it. This was one that we got 3 Japanese boys, young Irish kid. We're clearly trying to get Jota and Carter Vickers on permanent deals. This was like a great. If he had been our number one target and it was like the 30th of January, I think we'd all been really disappointed. But it was actually the opposite of that. So I actually turned on its head. We've been saying that we needed to get 2 midfielders in who have got energy and pace. And that was that for us. I think we'd all pretty much agreed on it. There's 1 or 2 other positions, but the way we play, the way Ange wants to press, we needed energy in there. So he's got 2 in, right? He's got Hatate, who appears to be the kind of 8 and a 10. Forget left back. He's not left back. He's an 8 and a 10. He can fluctuate between both, bags, and he's a playmaker. Picks a pass quickly. Another chap is Ideguchi. He's more the 6, but he's a 6. We get everything I've read and watched about him I know online you can get a bit of distortion, but you read a lot about the guys who we follow now as well and who cover the Japanese league. He gets the ball, moves it quick, a bundle of energy. And then you've got Maeda, who, and I think what excites him, of the 3 of them, what probably makes him the most exciting, is we've watched Kyogo and the impact he's had coming in. And the impact goals is one thing, but his energy, it's the work rate, it's the pressing. If this guy Maeda, and the stats are there, he actually pressed more, worked harder than any other forward in the Japanese league, far more than Kyogo. If he can do what Kyogo does, plus he's quicker, presses more, has more energy, might not be able to put the ball in the net as much as Kyogo. That's still wait to be see if that can happen. What that does to your team, that gives us an incredible weapon where we're not just waiting in the wee man, or if he's not there, we can take a dip. We've now got this other guy there who can cover as much, if not more, energy, more grass, more pressure. And I think that's a wonderful... Do you know what? To get those 3 in, It may not work, but it's a great statement of intent. It's a great statement to back the manager. He's got 3 players in that he thinks will fit his system to a T. So I'm delighted with that.
Yeah. And the fact that we did it so early suggests that all the stuff that was said around us wanting and identifying and working and wanting to get it done early, everything the manager wanted, he got.
Yep.
And that's a huge statement of intent. Like, ultimately, we shouldn't ever hear anything about Nicholson. He should just be in the background. I know some people think your CEO needs personality and all that. I don't believe that for a second. He can be as dull as fucking dishwater. Keep him in the bag, run the business, give the manager everything he wants, give him every tool he needs to do his job. And at the first test and the first time of asking, he's done that. Arguably, you could say that Mackay or whoever did all the work in the summer had also done that. So the club is falling in behind what the manager wants. We've made 2 really
Desi,
as well.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry, Monty. Desi, can I ask you a question, right? Does that then beg the question? And I don't want to, I can half minded whether to ask it or not, but stuff like, well, if Peter Law was still at Celtic, would these 3 guys, in your opinion, have been signed when they were signed, or would they have been signed at all? What was your view based upon what you'd watched with Peter?
Yeah, but that is a very good question, and it's probably one that we could let Monty talk on for about 40 minutes. Let's be honest.
That's why I paused. That's why I paused to think.
What was the phrase again? Financial judiciary.
We're not allowed to say it anymore. I've been threatened. I've been told my life's under threat if I mention the phrase again.
No, it's a very good point, and I have seen people like kind of raising it. And Ralph, it's a shame Ralph isn't on, because he did have a good piece in his diary in regards about who is the main man in respect to at the club, who is seen as a leader at the club. So when it was Martin O'Neill, it was Martin O'Neill. When it was Ronnie Delia, it was Peter Lawwell. When it was Brendan Rodgers, it was Brendan Rodgers. When it was Neil Lennon, it was Peter Lawwell. And now we're at the stage where it's Ange. I know Peter's now left, but even then it's always been Ange. And now Nicholson is basically doing what Ange is telling him. So Ange is like the alpha male, and he's getting it done. So it would have been very interesting, as you question there, Hector. How would they 2 have banged heads together? You know what I mean? I don't think Ange would have suffered the foolishness of Peter Lawwell differing or querying for a couple of 100,000 yen here and there. No, that's sort of way it would be a case of get these guys for next to nothing in comparative terms. We've sold players for multi-millions. Go away and get these 3 guys in. They're vital for the January signing. Get them early. Remember we used to save a month's wages. Remember that nonsense?
Yeah.
Remember we used to never. We weren't playing until February, so we don't sign anybody until the end of January. When you think of the madness that we used to go through.
Here's an interesting thing. It's a kind of secondary question, but probably taking it the other way in a very hopefully positive manner. We've got these 3 guys in. Apparently we bought Kyogo for under £5 million. It was £4.5 million.
Yeah.
Apparently we've got these 3 in. I know Maeda is initially a 6-month loan deal, but with a guaranteed, purchase within it, which is great. But by all accounts, we've got those 3 for pretty much what we paid in total for Kyogo. So just putting that in your heads, but also I'd imagine their wages were a lot less than what we pay for players from England or from some countries in the kind of bigger European leagues. Is that dynamic then a game changer for Celtic then to attract a quality of player from the Asian market on a fraction of the transfer fee, a fraction of the wage? Does that actually give us a chance to go and get better players? Because Ange knows a market that we've never really, apart from getting Nakamura, which was actually from Serie A, wasn't it? Strachan got him.
Yeah.
Does that give us a chance then to get a better player? Aye.
Sorry, on you go, Monty.
No. I was just, everything that we've done here suggests that we're operating to the manager's direction, not the CEO's whim or the bottom line. And I think that, and that's an interpretation from the outside in, but Hector just touched upon it. I think the usual sort of the leaky mouthpiece who used to run Peter's note messages had a post during the week that we actually exercised buyout clauses. We didn't go and negotiate a deal. And if that is the case, then we've picked up what looks on the face of it to be absolute bargains in a market in which there is absolute bargains to be had. So if you're Nielsen and that's the reality of what happened, that Postecoglou had identified these players, you went and talked to the clubs and you found out that the release clauses were actually really, really small fees. We think about it. We paid in combined terms, we paid more for Barkas than we paid for those 3 players. So if you're Nicholson, you've just won the lottery as regards doing your job and staying within the numbers. So it's worked with Kyogo, and which wasn't a big gamble. It was a $4.5 million signing, and he's been electric. I don't think anyone expected it. No. We've just spent, I think, less than that in total transfer fees, and we've got another 3. So what's not to like?
So Desi, just on that again, that's I was going to ask you. That's a positive. Here's the thing with Celtic. So you've got them coming in really early. You've got them in on a substantial discounted fees compared to comparable players in Europe. Wages are a fraction of what we get in Europe. So the next point would be, now we'll get 4 Japanese players. We always talk about other markets for the club to exploit.
Yeah.
This, if you're ever going to strike another market that's a massive, wealthy market, the Japanese market, for goodness sake, with 4 players, Kyogo's a star in the making, Maeda's in the Japanese squad, Hatate's in the Japanese squad, and I know Deguchi was in it and he's out again. What an opportunity that must be for the club to really get the right brain in now and go and do it.
There's clearly, before I forget, right, there's a few things. There's clearly a marketing vision there. And Monty's probably better equipped to talk about these things. But again, like they've basically said, well, we can get good players for Japan, but we can also tap that marketing aspect. And as you say, the Asian market. I mean, if you look at almost every English Premiership team, they've got some Asian advertising on their jersey somewhere, or in their backboards, or in the pitch. So obviously, we tried it a few years ago, and it never really worked with the whole China thing. But again, now we seem to be back into it. But even then, Hector, we were linked with that, the Iranian striker, the Iranian winger forward. Yep. So even like Ange had hinted at that before, as in there's lots of markets out there, Korean market, the Iranian league, these sort of things that people haven't touched upon. But what I was going to say, I don't know if I'm making this up in my head, but I'm pretty sure we'd saw news somewhere before. And correct me if anybody, if you've never heard this, or if you do remember it, I confirm it, that Celtic were doing their dealings through some agency. It wasn't Nicholson. So I'm just wondering if it's because they're doing it through some agency which Ange is linked to. And I'm not talking about underhand linked to, I'm just talking about he's basically reached out to say this is an agency who deals with a lot of kind of signings in Japan, etc., or the Asian market. And they're basically like a consultancy, say like a consultancy, basically a management consultancy for signing players, a player consultancy. Right, so and they're basically in charge them to go and get the players rather than. So Nicholson signed off a cheque, but it's basically been up to Mr. Hector Bandido of the agency to go and actually deal with the people in Japan and get it done. So I think maybe so. And again, apologies if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I heard that somewhere, that we've engaged somebody to take care of that. And again, it shows you the professionalism which is there. And Ange has basically said to them, this is how you go about it in Japan. You get it done, you get it done quickly, and you get the players in. So again, so you imagine Peter Lawwell hiring a third party to deal with stuff like that, other than a direct agent and all that kind of back and through.
Well, Law was kind of doing it with the Israeli guy, wasn't he? Dudu Dan.
He was kind
of doing it with him, wasn't he? That's who he's sort of go-to man when we needed a last-minute deal to get someone else in. Aye, exactly.
But no, I'm saying, but I think this is a third-party agency, like kind of headhunter, a player headhunter agency, with Celtic have employed to deal with the Japanese teams, etc. So they're fully aware of the market, they're experienced. It's no Nicholson phoning up and going, "Can I speak to your chief executive, please?" No, that's the idea.
But and this is interesting, Desi. Can I just jump in on that? Can you remember when Michael Owen was still playing and he went to Newcastle? Can you remember the presentation deck that his agency had? I think you can still find this online. In fact, I'll Google it as we're talking through it, and if I find it, I'll flick it into the team chat. Basically, Owen's contract was out. Owen's, how would you put it? His registration was outsourced to an agency, and this agency then created a marketing pitch, effectively a pitch deck on Michael Owen. And it was like you were selling a fucking car or beer or anything like that. It was glitzy fucking high definition images of Owen sticking the ball in the back of the net. His statistics, obviously the positive ones, and this was at a time when he was being slated for being injury prone. But the statistics showed that he played 30 plus matches every season for the previous 4, blah, blah, blah. And if you think about it, outsourcing of headhunting for key personnel is a done thing in pretty much every industry. Senior executives, there's recruitment agencies exist for that very purpose. It wouldn't be a stretch of logic to think that actually going and getting deals done for footballers would follow the same path. And in fact, if it doesn't, there could be a gap in the market for it. Because how the fuck would Nicholson know who to phone in Yokohama Mariners to get someone to talk to him about buying Maeda?
Well, it'd have been through Ange, wouldn't it? Ange, because Maeda.
I'm sure I heard somewhere we got. Again, I'm sure, but again, so Ange basically went, I want those 3 players. The best way to get those 3 players, Mr. Nicholson, is for you to phone Mr. Hector Bandido of E-Tim's agency, and they'll deal with it. They'll take 10% or whatever it is, but they'll get it done. You don't need to do anything bar agree a fee. No, that's the idea, and I'm sure
there's also an interesting thing. Going back to there's maybe about 4 or 5 of the Japanese-based accounts we've been interacting and following with, and it's just eye-opening when and it's not just so much the Celtic stuff. There's quite a lot of Japanese players, like Arsenal's now get the right back. I don't know the boy's name. The boys at Liverpool as well. There's another few of them that's joined the sort of Belgian clubs over the last couple of weeks. But what's been fascinating, just reading through some of it, is that, and this goes back to the culture again, where we see things from our own angle in Europe, I suppose, more than anything else. But over there, they've always historically, even up to now, undersold their players.
Yep.
And what I could take from reading between it is a lot of the Western-based guys who live there now, they're more frustrated than the Japanese-based journalists, because they're saying, well, hold on a minute, you're losing millions and millions. But over there, it appears to be, no, we don't need to hold a guy back. If they're from here, they've gone through a university system. They've almost got a collegiate system over there, like the States, where the players, they don't really go to an academy at 16. They get their education, go to college universities. Then they sort of, at 21, 22, 23, they go to the best clubs or whatever it may be. But they're kind of, the way it's pitched is that, well, no, they've done their bit here. Let them go and travel the world. It's good for the Japanese league. So they don't really care so much about the transfer fee. Can you just imagine the Celtic board hearing that information? Can you imagine? It's like the lottery jackpot has just arrived on your lap, isn't it? There's Ange. Oh, by the way, guys, forget £5 million a player. I'm getting them for $500,000 if you're lucky. Can you imagine that?
One of the great things about all of the accounts consistently, Hector, is proud to see how optimistic they are about the Japanese league. Mm-hmm. Everyone, they champion it, they love it. No, that way they talk it up, they don't talk it down. No, like the whole Stuart Scots, we're shite, everything's rubbish. No, that's the idea. Like they're pure positive. Like Hatate leaving, like he was writing, he wrote a big farewell. Really sad to go, and everybody wished him well. No, that's the idea. As you say, it's like it's all kind of backing players, and we'll welcome you back when you've been out and done your bit, and you're representing your country and you're representing your league. You know what I mean?
Over here, sketty fuck.
I know. You're dead to me.
Unfollowed on Twitter, unfollowed.
Even like that, even during the week when Benkovic left Leicester, you still had Celtic fans going, fuck him. Kieran Tierney, right? Come back to Celtic.
But the Kieran Tierney's with the club about 7 or 8, and even I was an old fucking fart. Even I was about, I can't believe he's leaving, that's gone for 10 in a row. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, the boy was he 22, he's been there for he was 7-year-old, he's won countless trophies, and we've got £25 million. And a lot of the fans are going, fuck him.
If you really love the club.
Mental, innit? Just mental, innit?
But yeah, no, but just go back to the actual players. I say, like, Hatate, again, it'll be interesting. I think he may be the kind of take a wee bit longer because he is viewed as a utility player at the moment. But there is a good chance that these 3 guys will turn up and just blow the rest of them away. You know, like your Turnbulls and your Rodgiks and your kind of, I mean, not so much Cal Mack either. Assuming he might kind of swap for Gucci now and again, whatever. But Maeda is the big one you're hoping. because apparently it is lightning fast.
He also looks like a ruthless assassin, doesn't he? He just, and that's what just really more than anything.
Let's be honest.
That's what you want him to do well.
The hunt written all over him,
Isn't he? He's just got that look like just staring at you and think, oh fuck, we need to fucking get him. He's just got that look at, and then when he won the Japanese with the golden boot, he got the samurai outfit on, hasn't he, with a big sword?
Yeah.
Right, and I just like to apologise for any appearances of rampant racism here. It's totally unintentional. It's racism with love, honestly. But no, right, but I say again, but honestly, God, I think he's got sent off against the Huns written all over him.
Just be looking at the referee. Just be staring at Willie Collum. Red card for staring at me.
Do you know, part of me, and I know this is veering into the stereotype that Desi just talked about, but I'm hoping for a full-scale ramming in the game in the second, and the lads go fucking wheeling in full kamikaze mode, fucking beat.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, proper high chopping, kicking, shit going on.
Monty, if you're going to go down that road, then I get my new dream of Dave Batista, Carter Vickers ripping his jersey off and just wheeling right in there. You know what I mean? That would just be fair. You can imagine Starfelt running down the tunnel, to be fair, right enough. But I can imagine Carter Vickers. It would be like something like the Wanderers movie. He would just pick up a couple of the benches at the side and then just walk into the middle of the pitch like the end of the Wanderers and just take on the whole gang himself.
I think what it does do with the manager as well, and us at our level, we spotted it, but Ange's been consistent, is that he's not the ability really to rest players, keep the same level of intensity up. Now that he's got in 3 players, listen guys, it might take them another few weeks just to settle in, right? New culture, new language, Scottish darkest winter, right? So, but what my point is that it might be that they get 60 minutes or they get 30 minutes, but then once he's got the full midfield squad there, the rotation, which is not available, because the way he plays is you can't have the same guys playing week in and week out. So I think that this will be vital. And then we'll probably touch upon it in a minute, the fact that other players who've been injured now are in full training. So if I could just say, God bless Nicola Sturgeon for that wee extra week in the winter. Thank you very much, Nicola.
Right, hold on, but there's two aspects of rotation, Hector, and this is Monty, you can come in on this one, because I did notice somebody mentioned that week that Celtic have basically been winning games with 1 goal here and there, so we've not exactly on a mad goal rant. And again, because we seem to be kind of ebbing off at the end towards the games. So we've got rotation, which will be good to rest players now and again. But you also get to keep the quality level up when you make substitutions. And again, we get to make 5 substitutions. Again, they brought the 5 sub rule back in. So it means when we get to the 60 minutes or the Rogic stroke 70 minutes, we can suddenly bring on or replace a player like for like rather than replacing an 8 for a 6. No, that's our idea. Or try to fit a Beaton or a Sorrow in. You know what I mean?
Don't use slag Beaton. He's been brilliant.
I'm talking about he'll be your preferred number 1 sub before we've signed the 3 Japanese guys. Let's be honest.
Well, sorry, Monty, you go.
There's a couple of things just to pick up on something you'd actually said there too, Hector, about players returning. When we started the season with all the trepidation of like this is just completely left field and we've no idea what to expect, I think we all collectively said come the tail end of the year, as long as we stay in touch, as long as we're close to them or whoever's going to be the lead, either ideally you'd be ahead, but as long as we're in touching distance, we'll have seen then what progress looks like. We've actually also seen the other side of it. You touched upon it, Hector, that the demands that the manager's putting on the players in training and playing, there's a certain sort of physiology that's breaking down in it. So you could argue he's winged it to this point because he hasn't had the tools to do his job. Now he does. He's added another 3, arguably 4 with the young fella coming in. But he's added those 3 things that we need, as you pointed out, energy and work rate and speed. All the ones that broke down as part of the first lap are on the mend. So if you look at what's happening now, we've reinforcements. The ones who were broken from the start of the season are now back in full training. Jota's back in full training. Kyogo will come back at some point in February, as will Turnbull. So at that normal point where the entire season is going to start really compressing and the fixtures are going to come hard and fast, it's an old cliche, but we're going to have all these new players. They're going to be like new players, new signings. We're going to have people coming back. So actually, if we can get the momentum picked up immediately on Monday with all of this energy and pace that we now have and start adding to it, we're still going to be fighting on three fronts, Scottish Cup League and Europe. All of a sudden, Bodo Glimt beat them and you're into a quarter-final of a European competition.
I think it's the last 16, Monty, just it's the 32 just now.
No, I actually thought that too, Hector. And a mate of mine pointed me to the fixtures. We beat Bodo Glimt and we're into the last 8.
I think
Really?
it's 16.
Go and check it, please, because I don't want to make a fool of myself on the podcast. Check it while we're talking.
I do it all the time.
I know I do, but I don't want to. Sorry, let me rephrase. I don't want to make a bigger fool out of myself than I normally do in the podcast.
But anyway, I get your point, right?
But my point is, we then have the tools to fight on all three fronts going into the end of the season, with arguably the most important piece being the league. We can now shuffle the pack, as Desi just touched upon. So I think, as much as by design as by a little bit of accident, and I think, by the way, there's going to be a few outgoings in the next couple of weeks. I think we'll see Barkas go, which is okay.
There's got to be a Jetty and Sorrow.
The obvious ones.
Here's one just to throw at you while you were talking about the players, and it's really, really early, right? But I would love it if Julian could get his fitness back, and because I think him and Carter Vickers together, see they two as a partnership, in front of Hart with the rest of the guys' energy in front of them in midfield and attack. I think it'd work out wonderful for us, because he gives us everything that Starfield doesn't. What I mean by that is he's pretty dominant in most cases in the air. He's a good passer of the ball, right or left foot. He's got good technical ability, and he's a leader, an organiser, a shouter. So if you've got Joe Hart, you've got him, you've got McGregor all organised and shouting, I think what that would give us. But I'm very conscious. He's been out for a year. He's just started back. It might take him 4 more weeks, hopefully. But see, when he comes in, if it's the middle of Feb, that for us is I hate to say, like you've said, almost like but it is. It's a quality player coming in.
And you hope, because there was another little report that eked out that he had a bit of a reaction to the half that he played. So you're hoping that he's not sort of majorly damaged. Like
he's going to get soreness, right? He's going to get soreness, right?
But it's a year. It's a full year since he played football. So, you got to be gentle with him too. But everything points to what we got to do now is seize that initiative and build on it. And I think with the signings, just to round out the topic with Desi, the signings we've made are excellent. And it's exactly what everyone pointed to. And to your point, Hector, Ange has been consistent. This is what I need. This is what I want. This is where I go to. So we've backed him. And now it's game on. It's proper game on for the next 5 months. Brilliant.
So Desi, just about players going out, I think we're all broadly agreed with Barkas and with Sorrow and with Jetty, right? I mean, that been no-brainer, all been well. But here's a question. It's strongly rumoured that Udinese tried to get Welsh on loan with a chance to buy in the summer. What was your take on that?
Well, I certainly wouldn't let him go unless it was for funny. I seen prices ranging from 1.5 million to 6.5 million. So again, 6.5 million, you maybe be tempted, and if he'd probably be tempted at that, because that would make him an auto millionaire kind of idea. But I wouldn't let him go, because again, I think you can't rely on Julian coming back. You can't rely on Starfelt 100% all the time, like you can on a Carter Vickers, as in surviving the season. I just think and Carter Vickers is going to accumulate enough suspensions or enough bookings to make suspensions. So Welsh is your number 3 defender. I mean, so I certainly wouldn't sell him. If anything, I would look to maybe try and give him a bit more game time, because I think he deserves. I mean, he's never done, in my opinion, he's never done anything wrong, whereby Starfelt still gives you the bomb scare moments. Almost every game there's at least one. Every time you think Starfelt's turned a corner, he seems to run down a dead end and come back again. And I'd love to see it work out, but at the very start of the season, he played one game, and one of the reporters said to Ange in an interview something about Starfelt was good bringing the ball forward, and Ange kind of cut the guy down and went, yeah, that's exactly why I bought him, mate. And I don't mean that. So the assumption was Starfelt was going to be that carry the ball forward and break the lines. He doesn't do that.
No.
every game you watch him, he just passes it right back to Carter Vickers. He hates to get the ball. He shits himself to get the ball.
I think there's up until that guy from Ross County assaulted him, and let's face it, that was an assault. If you do that in the street, you get time. I actually thought that Starfelt was building confidence and becoming more comfortable with the ball at his feet. That guy rattled one on his face and busted him. He ended up getting sent off because the ref didn't do his job. And he went into a complete crisis of confidence. He had a terrible game in the cup final. A couple of the games since that he played, he just didn't look right. It looked like it rattled him. And so I think he doesn't have a big heart. You know what I mean? He's not ballsy. He also looks a bit clunky on the ball, to your point. He's not as smooth or as clean with it as Hector pointed out with Julian coming forward. But maybe it's just what they're coached to do. You know, if you look at it, Carter Vickers can break a line better and looks in more control than Starfelt, but neither of the two of them are particularly brilliant.
And Ange has excused him and apologised for the demand he's put on them, because he's like, especially you can look at Carter Vickers. He's the size of a house, and his job is clear your lines. It's not to become another Virgil van Dijk. You know what I mean? He's no that play. So certainly getting, and I think Juranovic, he touched on that. I know his first game for Celtic, he had 100 touches, I think, whereas he's used to maybe getting 30 touches. No, that's the idea. Certainly, so it's a total different. So suddenly bringing the Japanese guys in, they're obviously, a couple of them are accustomed to what Ange's demands are going to be, and how much time they're going to have on the ball, and how many times they're going to be expected to be open for the ball. No, that way suddenly every player's meant to be ready for the ball all the time, rather than, say, a James Forrest hugging a wing away while the ball's on the left-hand side. He's just standing on the right. No, that's what I did. So it's a totally different approach that they've all got to adjust to, and I can appreciate that. But come back to Welsh, I don't think Welsh has done anything wrong. To be fair, he's actually made, and even gives a wee touch of a goal threat now and again for a set piece. So I think the guy, he's just an easy target sometimes for people to pick on.
I don't know why that. I don't know why. I just is that the whole because it was the exotic signing that the fans a guy through the academies and he's a target. So like Forrest, there's these guys put stuff at Forrest 9 years ago. He'll never make it. He does well for years, and suddenly he told you he'd never make it because of this season. Ralston's
the perfect analogy to Welsh. When Rodgers gave Ralston a chance, he didn't do anything wrong. You and I have debated this quite a bit, Hector, in terms of the quality of fullbacks that we have. But Ralston did nothing wrong, and then just never got a look in. And then you look at Lenny bringing in that other guy, Kenny, fucking John Joe Kenny. Who, by the way, I looked at his stats before we started. He's played 3 times this season for Everton. So obviously, they use the phrase, there's a player there. But Jesus, he was horrific at Celtic. So Ralston got in under Rodgers, but didn't cement it. And without the change, and without Postecoglou, and arguably without the crisis of players and lack of players that we had at the start of the season, Ralston could be laying fucking bricks this month.
Based on what I've seen this season, Welsh is a better centre half than Starfelt. Now, it's not to say that Starfelt won't improve, and maybe Starfelt's playing beneath the level he can play at, because as we know, a player for a different country can take time to settle for a number of reasons. Yep. I always get back, because I'm old, to guys like Paul Elliott, and I'm not comparing Starfelt to Paul Elliott for people who are going to phone in and complain, but Elliott was really a car crash for 6 months before becoming, in my opinion, the best centre half I'd seen at Celtic.
Totally agree.
He was like a Rolls Royce.
18 yellow cards.
And he was a yard slow, and he came for Serie A when Serie A was arguably the best league in the world at the time. So Starfelt, it might well be that he's just struggled to adapt for a number of reasons. But right now, I would say Welsh. I'd rather have Welsh part than Carter Vickers right now until Julian, hopefully fully fit, comes back in again.
Yeah. And it's that. Sorry, Desi, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that because that would have been interesting. Like, I know Rangers have just signed Suter on a pre-contract deal, so to speak. But it would have been interesting if Celtic went out and got another centre half. But again, we'll get Julian possibly coming back. But the opposite of Starfelt, against Ross County. You've got Julian against Livingston. And remember, I don't know if he's ever recovered for that, in my opinion. Kind of idea getting rag-rolled at Livingston. That whole kind of approach to the Scotland game, the Scottish football game.
It was also on the AstroTurf Desi though, wasn't it?
Bring him back in winter, Hector. I mean, bring him back in the harshness of winter, so to speak. I mean, it is going to have to be a very cautious exercise. I think it's not as if he's just going to be a kind of robust, here we go, just let me get back in there, boss. No, that sort of idea. I think it's going
Desi,
to be...
can I throw one at you then? Right, and obviously you mentioned the boy Suter, but what I've heard for, let's just say a drunken guy at a pub down the Gallagate, that Celtic will be looking at a centre-half called Jamie Hamilton.
Well, on
that?
Apparently he comes from right good family stock.
You know these people personally, Desi, do you?
That's all I can tell you. I can't tell you he's my cousin's son. I've never met him. I've never met Jamie, but he is my cousin's son. And the last time I saw my cousin was at a funeral. And she was saying even then, I think he was maybe 17 then, the last time I saw Lorraine. And she was saying even then, Celtic had been watching this boy for 5 years. Easy. I mean, like for years. Everton are very much front runners. They've been keeping tabs on him for years. I know. Everton, but he's been literally tipped for the top for a long, long time. Like football, again, this is like the knowledgeable football circles within football. All the scouts and all the technical directors. This boy's got it all. He can make it in the modern game. The modern footballer, he can make it. Touch wood, the thing everything works out wise. It'd be quite interesting because my cousins in Moncourt, you couldn't make mere diehard Rangers fans. If you imagine the Newton Mearns Rangers supporters club, they would be the front runners. So it'd be quite interesting if he did turn up at Celtic Park in a Celtic jersey, because I'd love to see Matt and Andrew sitting in the stand with me watching them one day. That would be quite funny. You know what I mean? But so I think it would be quite interesting. But I think Everton are certainly the front runners. But it could be a good signing for the future for Celtic. But again, it'll probably be the B side, the Colts or whatever, and then bringing them through. But again, Welsh has shown you can get your chance under Ange.
Yep.
So if you get him a pre-contract, there's no reason not to buy him. You know what I mean? If I've bought John Joe Kenny there, Monty. So again, the thoughts are he can make it eventually as soon as he gets kind of.
No, wait a minute. It's no Johnny. It's no Johnny Kenny.
Sorry.
You're getting the shivers again, Desi. John Joe Kenny.
No, that's flashbacks to
like people keep talking about Everton are doing so bad. Rafa Benitez is playing him. Rafa Benitez is playing that John Joe Kenny.
That's why they're so bad.
No, the young fella, he's only 18. He's well rated. He apparently got quite a gallus, sort of cocky type. Scores really, really different types of goals too. A former contributor to the site, Miles O'Wood, from his time over in Brussels, was raving about him and saying that this young fella will make it at Celtic. Same as Scales. Might take him 6 months to a year to adopt to professional football, but even at age 18, 19, like he was the hottest prospect after Scales. There's another young fella there who I think he's got an Eastern European name, I think like Radachoyu or something like that. We've been linked with him at Shamrock Rovers, but outside of him, Scales and Kenny seem to be the two hottest prospects.
Scales is quite impressed me. Do you know that?
He's a good player, yeah.
It's just you see a player who his first touch, the boss sticks, right? He opens his body the way you'd expect a player who plays wide to open the body, and his passing's crisp and it's accurate. Yeah, it's really impressed me so far. There's a player there. Definitely a player.
And I think
don't steal his partner, Hector.
I'm afraid.
No, wait a minute. He said Abido Baldy. There's a player there, right? Come on.
There is. I keep telling you.
Like, mate, Scales for some reason reminds me of Genie Jarisic. He always reminds me of him. Who famously won, of course, the free kick. Who famously cleverly won the free kick for Nakamura to convert. Quickly before I forget, I'll just confirm it's in the last 16 we would go into in the conference. That is the last 16. The draw's in February for the last 16.
Okay, so there's another layer.
I think you've still got a few kind of trickle downs to go through.
Monty, can I just say on that point, so I don't forget, thanks for clarifying, Desi, that you came over for a European game 2 or 3 years ago, and my youngest boy was there. Daniel was there, right?
Yes.
And you'd maybe had about 3 or 4 pina coladas at this point, right? but you'd promised him. You said, Daniel's son. I mean, enough of that nonsense. You went, Daniel's son. If Celtic get to the last day of a European competition away from home in Europe, I'll take you there. So he's saying, make sure you ask him the next podcast. Make sure he's sticking by his promise.
I'm a man of my word. I actually and I believe I had promised some element of a jolly along with that trip. So once we've sorted out the contract to sponsor the E-Tims podcast, I'll go to my fellow directors.
Spain Town Brewery European tour?
I think so. I'll go to the fellow directors and see if we can puff up enough funds to take Hector's young fellow on a jolly to Europe.
Just him, remember, Monty, and you're going to keep him for 3 or 4 weeks. Okay.
This Daniel. Right, so let's let me confirm. The UEFA Europa Conference League round of 16 draw will be streamed live on the 25th of February. The 8 group winners will be joined on the 10th and 17th of March by the winners of the 8th knockout round playoffs. The ties pitting the group runners up against the third place UEFA Europa League group finishers. So I don't know, is that noise?
No, I'm telling you, I'm nearly certain that what you've just read out. So no, I'm not going to.
No, the 8 group winners play. We're playing against the teams who were we were second, weren't we? We were third in the Europa League.
So we play the team that was second in the conference.
Right, so we play Bodo Glimt and Bodo, or in Asmira Bodo 17:45 on the 24th of February, and then the following day on the 25th of February is the round of 16 draw.
That's right. So their group had Roma in it, and Roma topped that group. So those winners then come in at that stage. That's the other eight teams that we're missing. Sorry, my apologies.
So as I say, a bit of a trickle down still to go.
So we can slap Snaffo Tafo on Twitter for getting that one wrong, because he was the one who steered me to it. I got quite excited.
Well, again, so it's another journey for young Daniel. So he's got something to look forward to. So we have touched on the Jota aspect, Hector. I personally, I'm not really that fussed about the whole get him signed up. Again, you've got the worry about maybe he's already done so well for us, and he maybe do so well again that other people started to take notice. There was talk of Benfica maybe offering him another contract, but I think we do still have first option.
We've got first option. That's the deal. That's the absolute deal. So we've agreed with them the fee. It's just whether we want to invoke it, and I suppose ultimately he's got to say yes.
Well, you could have a Jack Henry. Remember Jack Henry, whereby was it Odense or whoever signed him and then punted him straight away? Remember we sold him for 1.8 and then they sold him for 6.
It was the Belgium team, wasn't it? That he was with. Aye, and he sold him to another Belgian team. Was it Bruges or something? I know.
Was it Odense? I thought it was Odense. Anyway, they basically just flipped him in the same window.
I suppose I think with Jota, right, there's actually no, back to your point, there's actually probably no rush to sign him, because he's just come back for a hamstring. So what happens if there's a recurrence to this hamstring? And then after that again, you're going to sign a player that potentially has got an injury issue. Why not wait until April or May? I suppose the risk is if he does come back and plays magic, there's a chance he might reject Celtic's offer because he's been touted elsewhere by his agent. So it's a bit.
So no, I was thinking on that, but then you'll basically get the benefit of him being magic for the next 4 months. Now that's the idea. So you're still profited from him being magic. Okay, you never got to see him next season, but let's just enjoy it. I mean, let's think positive. I mean, Monty.
Just as you were talking there, lads, I looked up just to validate, not that I didn't believe you, just on the Europa Conference League, and it turns out the final is on the 25th of May.
Are we all going to Albania?
In Tirana, in Albania. And I looked at the 8 group winners, and other than Roma, and even then I watched the game during the week. I watched Juve turn them over from 3-1 up, which was a phenomenal game of football, by the way. Looking at those 8 group winners, along with who else could potentially come in with us, there's really no one in there that you would fear. So, I get a little.
Sorry, can I just fling the cat amongst the pigeons stroke, dead cat in the table stroke, big, can we just hold on a fucking minute here? Because again, we seem to, a lot of Celtic fans seem to have developed this notion that we're a really good team. And I have to be brutally honest and say, no, we could be a good team, but at this point we're still very much a work in progress. So I think we may be getting ahead of ourselves a wee bit here in Monty by going, have you checked your holidays for me?
But seriously, I see Hector's turned into a large dog there by the looks of it.
I don't know what happened there.
That's the dog. That's Murphy. That's the dog.
But seriously, just to round them off, I know we're going off topic, but Alkmaar, we beat them already. Basel, Copenhagen, Feyenoord, Ghent from Belgium, LASK Austria, Rennes from France, and Roma, Italy. Really? Is there anybody in there you fear?
Do you know what? I'm with you, Monty, because see, the thing is with football fans, right? Part of being a football fan is to dream, isn't it? It's just to dream. See this about it's the hope that kills you. I hate that. It's shit, isn't it? We're used to growing up, especially in the west of Scotland. Oh, don't think above yourself. Why not? Why not? Because if we get a run of fixtures and everything goes great, it's unlikely. Who cares? But imagine, Desi, because I know Desi, you're thinking the exact same thing.
Hector,
You're thinking about the president of Albania. If Celtic get there, that's what you're thinking about. Can you imagine?
Scripted. Rudy.
Listen, don't get Hector. You and I and Monty, we've all travelled across Europe together, having a whale of a time.
But not to Albania with the president being a Celtic fan.
I can tell you a story about that.
Rudy Vada and the president of Albania in fucking retro jerseys from 1988 presenting the trophy to fucking, I nearly said Scott Brown, presenting the trophy.
I will get him along and all. Ring me. No, I went to Cassiopeia on my honeymoon, and I remember me and this big guy Steve, who we met on holiday, we were doing windsurfing on the beach one day, and this big guy Steve, he was a natural. And Steve's wife said to me after one of the windsurfing sessions, her and my wife were just lying sunbathing. She said she'd never heard any one person swear as much in their life as they heard me swearing every time I was falling off this windsurfing board. And one day we went down to the beach, and it was pure windy. And we walked out the wee guy to get the windsurfing board, and the wee guy put his hand up, basically put his palm up, and looked at Big Steve and went, "He is okay. You will end up in Albania. Not today. not today." That was as close as I got to getting to Albania.
And there you go. 2022, the guy's proven
it's
correct.
Calling
there you go. It's calling you. That's
no, right. I just think we're a wee bit. We run the dream of the Ange team is a beautiful dream. At the moment, I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're still maybe a 5.5 out of 10. I don't even think we're a 6 out of 10 yet. There's still quite a lot of components to fit in. And once we can get to that model whereby we're replacing a sub with like for like and keeping the quality up and keeping the momentum and keeping the pushing on the pressure, because we're all about the offensive. We're still all about the offensive. Then we'll move into a 6 and a 7. And then for Europe, maybe an 8.
Totally get your point. And I think we're in broad agreement, right? But then you've got the what if. So what if Maeda, Gucci and Hatate come in and they have the same impact as Kyogo? What if Julian comes back in a few weeks and gives us that outstanding centre half next to Carter Vickers, who's been outstanding? So, and not just them coming in, they actually make the other players around them better because they're using the ball quicker, there's more energy.
Even your Forrest and your Jotters, and then again, like inspiring, hopefully your Mikey Johnsons, we've still got hope there.
And then big Jackie Naki Nicknocks comes in and scores 2 hat-tricks these next 2 games, right? So, but you know what I'm trying to say? It's like a
listen,
I'm with you, but what if these guys hit the ground running?
Right? The thing is, what I'm saying, like, to clarify, I just think we're on an upward trajectory, but we're still at the bottom of that trajectory, if you know what I mean. We're not even anywhere near the top of it yet. We're still slowly climbing. As Monty's mentioned, there's still like physiology. I was just looking up like Anton McElhone. Remember when he joined? That was September. So it'll be quite interesting to see the kind of his plans come to fruition. I don't know if any of you saw it. There's been a brilliant couple of pieces over the last couple of days about how Pep Guardiola's revolutionised how you approach winning the league in England. You no longer plan for January window. You plan for a 14-game winning streak. And it was like going with it was good. Like quite a few tweets a day. Daniel Story, he covered it also. One of our good friends.
Is it no you sign all the best players in the world and give them the best wages?
That might help. But again, it's quite interesting. But again, like Man City, Man United, and Chelsea have all got this relative same spending. But Man City have spent the most on infrastructure. They spent the most on a technical director. They spent the most on various behind the scenes rather than. I know they did both your Jack Grealish, but it turns out by investing everything early and all the behind the scenes things and getting infrastructure right, they can accommodate a Jack Grealish no hitting the kind of 100% right away and give him 6 months to bed in. And when you look at their signings, Kevin De Bruyne is not even in their top 20 signings. I mean, like their best player. It's totally unbelievable how that guy is. You'd imagine he would be 100 million,
they signed a squad player for £100 million this summer.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm not saying obviously money counts not. I'm just talking about how the scientific approach of how do we win this league. Having the best players hasn't guaranteed him winning the Champions League.
But just on that, on one of your favourite topics, Celtic have just appointed a new data.
That's what I'm talking about, Anton.
We all know how much we know how much both of you two love the stats and the stats guys on Twitter as well.
Love it.
No, well, that was very interesting because the Japanese guys they had a lot of good approaches, but their approaches seem to be more overall, rather than just a position and a fight. Like a lot of the issues we have with stats guys out there are. They don't take in the human element. They don't take in the leadership element. They don't take in the turning up and being a presence on the pitch element. We're talking about the voices and the communications and stuff.
There's one or two that does. Celtic by numbers. He's one of the guys that does. I think a guy called Alan Morrison. Alan's excellent, and he puts the data out there. But he's the first to say, this is just a snapshot of it. But the human part of the leadership. The organisation skills, which on a football pitch communication is half the battle. Right? If you don't include those metrics, then you're not including the completeness of a player. Right? Attitude's half the battle in football, right?
Can I come in on something, Desi, just that you'd flagged as yourself and Hector were debating that we're on an upward trajectory, but we're still at the bottom of it?
Yeah, I believe so.
We talked about at the start of the season that in order for Postecoglou to make this squad he needed 3 windows. Mm-hmm. Realistically, it's only this time next year that you see the development of his squad, his team, his philosophy and everything else. And in that context, to the earlier point on having the hope that kills you, but why not? If you look at what he's done in that short space of time, it's not a honeymoon period. All the ideas are sticking. And all of the reference material that we can find about the guy, and I know, Hector, you had come across a video, or it was an interview with one of his former players, I think, at international level, where he talked about it. They all say the same thing. It takes 6 months to a year for people to really buy into the philosophy, and then this thing just goes into takeoff mode. So we have, by almost accident, not design, stumbled upon what looks like an incredible football manager. And we are at the start of that journey. Those points, Desi, on attitude, on how the player applies himself and what sets him apart from a £100 million player. If you look at Pogba at United, arguably the most gifted and athletic midfielder of his generation, is he the go-to guy that any club would want in Europe with money?
The man who was in the headlines today saying, I would quite happily join PSG in the summer.
Aye. So you're not talking, that's a shite bag of a player. That's not the type of guy that you rally.
Exactly.
That's not a player that the rest of the dressing room rallies around. We had one infinitely more limited, or significantly more limited than Pogba, but probably infinitely more effective in terms of galvanising the team around him and Brown. And we had the joys of him for 10, 12 years. So the fact that Postecoglou signing players based on their personality, their application, their desire, their wanting to be at Celtic, and their technical attributes. He hasn't signed any big, imposing players apart from Cameron Carter-Vickers. There's nobody who's a big, dominant character, and that's my only fear about it. But if we're that fast and we're that agile, we're that mobile, and this system presses you to death, we've nothing to fear. It's Barca light in my head, you know.
I get back to your earlier point at the start of the podcast, Monti, and it's something way back in August. And I think it was either just before we played Hearts the first game or just after when we lost them 2-1. And I think we all had broad agreement. The four of us, obviously, Ralph's not on the call just yet, but we all spoke about it and said, look, if we can get to the break and be no more than 6 points behind, give ourselves a sniff, give Ange the chance to bring in reinforcements, build a bit of momentum behind the team, we've got a sniff. Now, they're still the favourites. They've got to be, because they've got an established team. They've been working together for 3 to 4 seasons. They've actually probably done well getting rid of Gerrard, because his heart, you can see he was just touting himself for a long time down south. From Brockhurst has come in, probably will adapt their style, blah, 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 but they've got a settled team, settled squad, right? 1 or 2 may move, but they've got it settled. They'll probably grind out results, 1-0, etc., etc. Yeah. So they're still the favourites, but the point is, we've given myself a sniff, right? Yeah. If we can beat Hibs next week and build on that, just win the next couple up to we play them, right? Then let's see what happens. But the point I would is again would be, did I think realistic at the start of the season that would win the league after the summer fiasco with Eddie Howe, Ange coming in late, players leaving, last year's fiasco? No, I didn't. But what I would see now is that what I've seen with Ange so far, the players he's pinpointed and brought in, they've not kicked a ball yet, but they're identical of what he's been saying consistently all season about the positions they play, how they play football, the energy, the work rate, the press. If he gets 12 months with them, gets 2 or 3 diamonds this summer, I genuinely think next season could be one of the most exciting Celtic teams in a long time. If a lot of these things go well, obviously, it could be. And I would look. You always want to win this season, of course you do. But I'd look more towards next season. I think we'll take some stopping next season. I really do.
Totally agree.
Well, that kind of brings me back a little bit to what I was saying 10 minutes ago in respect to, let's just hold our horses here because we could be a good team. We're not quite a good team yet. And the game against the Huns will be a very, very good test of where we are. We've got a few weeks to get up to speed, and then we face them on February 2nd. And it'll be interesting because they're going to play for set pieces. We know exactly how we're going to play the game. We're going to play for set pieces. We're notoriously weak at set pieces at this point. It would be nice if you can get a Julian back for his height advantage, so to speak. But that'll be a real test. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here. We're still to face Hibs and everything in between. But that'll be a real test of where we are this season. And then that might dictate where we end up at the end of the season. If we can. But they're going to Aberdeen their next game, and that'll be interesting if suddenly Scott Brown can rally the Aberdeen troops. This is still. But I looked at their last results, so to speak. We've had Broadcast 1 manager in a month, and I know it means nothing, but I looked at the results, and I think it was like 1 goal against in the last 7 games they've conceded. So they are solid. I mean, like, as you say, Hector, they've had 3 years to build this team, and they are solid. They're big lumps of guys, and they're perfectly equipped for the Scottish game. So it's just up for it.
Desi, they're Achilles' heel. They've no pace in defence.
No, Hector.
No pace in defence.
Yeah, like I was just coming to the fact that it's up to us to chip away at that. Because again, the big thing is they were under no pressure when they won the league. There was no fans there. There was no anxiety in the stadium, which they had the year before. And Tavernier admitted we don't do well under pressure in our own stadium when the fans are all getting on their back. So we need to get to the stage. If we can win in February and get it to within 3 points for mid-February, I'm not even asking for us to catch them in the next 2 weeks. I'm asking for us to be within 3 points before the second Old Firm game and just keep that pressure on them. Then you might see a few cracks. I'd be quite happy with that. I'm not asking for us to win the league by 10 points. I'm just saying, see if we can just chip away and just be right on their heels, just going, you don't know if we're just going to run right by you. No, that Lewis Hamilton moment of, oh fuck, he's past me and I'm dubbed. That would be lovely.
So our next 3 games before we play them at Celtic Park, we'll get Hibs on Monday, Scottish Cup, forget that one, just put the league right. We'll get Hibs on Monday, then the following midweek Wednesday, we're away to Hearts at Tynecastle. Then we're at home to the United. If we take the 9 out of 9, then let's see. If we don't take the 9 out of 9,
yeah.
But that's a very good. That's a very good example of the toughness of the games. You know what I mean? Like Hibs will be interesting under Maloney. I saw somebody actually worrying about Hibs under Maloney, but I think we might be just getting them early enough for them still to be in transition for Maloney's thing with team to still no be there, so to speak. Boyle's under a few contract discussions I see, so he might not turn up. So that would be quite interesting. Hopefully we can get there early. Hearts is always a shitty game, let's be honest. It's all, hopefully we can be clinical and get it done. And then Dundee United will be interesting because when they played us at Celtic Park, they were a lot better football team than we were, but then it was okay. What was the score when we played them up there? Was it a draw?
No, 3-1 up there. We gave them a 2.
Oh, sorry.
3-0.
Oh, was it a draw? It was a draw at Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1 each at Celtic Park.
Aye, so and that was a dire game, remember? So again, that'll be interesting to see how. And they might have Tony Watt back by then. They're looking like securing Tony Watt. But yeah, so again, I just think we've got a chance of kicking on from. So I think we're doing it at 5.5 out of 10 now. We've got a chance of this climbing up to a 6.5, then into a 7, and then you're suddenly getting momentum, getting into the last 8 games of the season or whatever. I mean, that kind of idea, planning it right. So again, but then you've got your suspensions, you've got your injuries, you've got players. I don't know if we get any players that are contract in the summer bar, Karamoko. I wouldn't imagine he's going to get a game. Let's be honest. I don't think we'll see him again.
I think they're all tied down pretty much. I think they're all the main players are tied down. So yeah, I think there's a lot. You know, we're having a few weeks break. We're due to come back. I think we're in a good position. I think other than Jota and Kyogo, Jota's now training, but he obviously won't be ready for Monday. Kyogo definitely won't be ready. So does he start Maeda?
Surely. I think he will. Who else? Well, who else can we play up through the middle?
Well, you've got.
Is there big Jackie Natty, as you would say?
Well, he's now been fully fit in training, right? You've got him. You've got Forrest. You've got Mikey Johnson. You've got Maeda. I think that's really it. So don't know whether they might not start or we're bringing one after half an hour to go. I don't know. The midfield's got reinforcements, right? Midfield's looking good.
Sorry, Hector. Apologies, Hector. As a resident of this, you just made me think there. Are we looking? Do you think we'll evolve into a Man City style 5 forwards rather than a strict formation of a 4-3-3 kind of idea? Do you think it'll just be a case of you guys run wherever you know where to run to? Because if player A's get the ball and player B should be making space and player C should be running into the far post, and that sort of idea.
We've actually kind of had that this season.
Yeah, right? I think we'll, especially with the new guys, I think we'll become that kind of swarm of bees. You know what I mean?
The only thing I would say is that you've had Turnbull and Rogic, who actually have given you almost a 5 up front at times, right? So we've kind of, albeit Rogic and Turnbull, if you think about how you've mentioned Man City, I totally get it why you've mentioned it, but their equivalent players they've got more pace and energy than what Turnbull and Rogic have got. So if Hatate and somebody else comes in and they're going to give us that, then great. But what Ange does that's very different is the inverted fullbacks.
Yeah.
That's something that Pep, he doesn't. He's the complete opposite. They hug the touchlines. Don't be wrong. They're that good to go anywhere, these guys, right? But at our level as in signing a player, I think Ange's blueprint's great because to a personal level, I always wanted to see a Celtic team that presses high. I hated domestically I'm talking about here, I hated letting teams get the ball at the back and we just let them pass it about and let them bring it up to us. I thought, no, come on, go and dominate and go for it. So I'm loving the fact of what he's trying to do. I think it's incredible, the turnaround. He might blow up his face next couple of weeks. So what? Build and build and build for next season. He's got one in the bag. Brucey bonus the league this year. But tell you what, see if he does the league this year, I think he's set himself up for a, God knows,
a job at Newcastle.
I really, really do. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? Here's one for you. Do you think Ange is the kind of guy that would jump the first chance to go?
Absolutely not. I think he's here for the long haul. I really do. I think he's found a base and a job that perfectly fits with man's ethos. He doesn't come across as the guy who's going to do the midnight flip. There might be clubs that in his world, who's the next tier up? It's Liverpool, it's Man U, it's Barcelona, it's Real Madrid. It's not Aston Villa. It's not a mid-table English club. I have a feeling he's here for 3 to 5 years, and then he look for an international. He mentioned did I send the clip on where he did an interview on Greek TV? They brought Viduka in on it as well. They wish him the best. And he talks about he would love it, ideally, to go and manage the Greek national team, and that would be his kind of wind down. So what is he now, 56, 57?
It's still young for a manager, isn't it? It's not relatively ancient.
But I think he probably has that notion. This is his big club. He can leave a massive legacy at Celtic, and then maybe one more hop if he gets it to the upper echelon, and if not, go to international football. As what did he say? He wanted to drink ouzo on a beach in Mykonos, I think was what he exactly said.
But again, so like he's 50. I've just looked at he's 56. So again, I think if we go 2 years of success, and we've talked about this many times, it would be interesting to see if Celtic could turn into somebody like John Kennedy and say, right, you've worked with Brendan Rodgers, you've worked with the old Brendan Rodgers. What was Chris Davies? I mean, like including these number two, you worked with Ange Postecoglou. What have you taken from that? What have you learned from that? What can you bring to Celtic as a continuation? I mean,
I think Desi Kennedy was given a shot at the title last year by Law, and either by design or maybe he's a hell of a lot more politically astute than we all believe him to be. He either shot it or he failed. He just played completely conservatively, continued it on, just rolled it to the end of the season and stopped. Now, that could be a professional thing. The league was already done in his mind anyway. His job was caretaker. He'd apply the letter of the law to what he's been told to do. But if you're in his position and you know the job's coming up and you know there's going to be big changes, why would that not have been your opportunity? And I've also heard him being mentioned by other ex-players or people talk about him being a brilliant sort of mentor and a brilliant sort of confidant. But people also talk about him saying he could be an excellent director of football as opposed to a head coach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if he just has the smarts, and maybe be interested in Hector's view. Hector, do you think Kennedy has the smarts to become Celtic manager? John Kennedy.
I don't know. Is the honest answer to your question.
I'm wondering, Hector. Like I'm saying, if we get 2 years of a successful Ange Postecoglou, and again, going back to your point, Monty, like an Aston Villa, it may not seem glamorous to us, right? But Aston Villa still have a player budget of £250 million a year. Celtic have a player budget of £7.5 million a year. You know what I mean? And again, all right, Aston Villa, they're going to play Burnley, but we're going to play Livingston. You know what I mean? So it's all relative. Yeah. And you're still in. Ange is maybe getting 50 grand a week if you're lucky at Celtic, probably 30 grand a week. But in England, you'd probably get 130 grand a week. And when you're 58, that's a lovely pension pot to be getting. You know what I mean? There is the attraction there. It's just human nature.
What we'd be doing, Monty, what we'd be doing this time is lessons learned from Rodgers, right? And we all put in, and that's not a criticism. It was wonderful when he came in and everything we did, the undefeated treble and everything else, right? But what I would do is I'd be succession planning. If Ange turns out to be the success we all hope he's going to be, no two ways about it. He's going to get offers from down south, right? Because of how he plays football, how he adapts, how he talks. So I'd be succession planning by pinpointing 2 or 3 coaches right now. Do I think Kennedy Kennedy's got to go away and manage a club somewhere.
That was my point. As in, if you were to sit Kennedy down and say, right, reverse knowledge transfer here, Johnny. What have you learned from Brendan Rodgers? What have you learned from Chris Davies? What have you learned from working under RA managers at Celtic Park? What have you learned from Ange? I don't want to hear about a couple of coaching routines. I want to hear what have you learned how to run a football team. Well, that's the idea. It would be interesting if we actually could summarise it and win you over. And the amazing thing, we're sitting here talking about Ange, right? I know we've won the League Cup, etc. But I'm sitting here going, I still think we're a 5.5 out of 10 team. Monty and Hector, use a wee bit more optimistic. But we're all agreed that we're on an upward trajectory and we've all bought into this idea. I mean, Ange just sold us this vision and we've all went, we're way 100%.
That's it, it's good.
We can't guarantee the league, but we don't care because you know where you want to be and we're behind you 100%.
Hold on, Desi. I still shite myself rotten in Europe in particular. When he goes gung ho and I'm still shouting, fucking get somebody in front of that fucking defence, you mad bastard. Can't help yourself at times, right? But he just shrugs his shoulders. Hold on, Desi. He shrugs his shoulders. And goes, that's how it is. That's how I'm going to play.
Listen, if you're vegetarian, you don't go to McDonald's, mate. You know that?
That's exactly it. If you're a vegetarian, you don't go to McDonald's just because you're hungry. And I think I love his one-liners and his quotes like that. And
You've got to put meat in. You've got to put meat in at the end.
But I think, to your point on succession planning, we were linked with two other coaches heavily before we ended up with Postecoglou. Your guy Maresca, who was at Man City, and Jesse Marsh, both of whom have been sacked from the jobs that they took.
Doesn't make them bad coaches.
Exactly. This is my point.
This is a brilliant topic to discuss. It's on the agenda.
Because this is my point on succession planning. Those are coaches who play a style of football that we've all now bought into a vision of, that Postecoglou will lay down the foundations. Remember, he came on his own. He will leave on his own. Whichever job he goes to next, he probably won't take everyone with him. He won't gut the place the way Rodgers did. He can't. They're not his hires. They're the club's hires. So my point is, if it's a head coach and a philosophy that we need to replace if and when he goes, that's a hell of a lot easier to do than what he's actually come in and fixed since Rodgers gutted the place and Lenny kind of just tried to wing it to the end.
Folks, can I just apologise? I did ask the question, and the guy's been here 6 months, and I already asked the question, what if? So let's get back to a cheery note, right? Desi, Monty, are we going to win the league this year?
I'll go back to something I said at the start of this season, right?
Oh, come on, Jacob Rees-Mogg, get off the fence.
This is very relevant. And I always come back to it. And it was like the start of this season, and we were discussing, is Ange going to work or no? And we were trepidations. Yep. Monty brought in early into the division and said, you're either in, you're out. You've got to jump into the deep end. And
he was still up for Neil Lennon getting sacked.
You keep saying that.
It's because Neil Lennon's the official Spade Town Brewery representative.
He's silent back.
If you all know he's going to be a brand ambassador soon enough.
Yeah, him and Liam Neeson, mark this space.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, Johnny Adair. I can see it now. Hands across the ocean.
That brings me back to something else. Before I forget, Hector, you just mentioned before about the hope is, regards the hope it kills you, blah, 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 and let's be a wee bit more optimistic. And I was watching all Billy Connolly stuff, as we mentioned on Twitter every now and again, and I watched all Billy Connolly chat with Parkinson, and Billy Connolly turns around and says, enough of this fucking doom and gloom. We should be telling our Waynes you can be anything you want to be. We should be like the Americans, tell our Waynes you can be as successful as you want to be. You can do anything. Billy Connolly says, I tell people I meet in Glasgow, you can do this. I'm nothing special. If you want it, you can get it. You have to work at it. You have to go and get it. You have to be that kind of optimistic and have that drive. You have to work at it and all that. And it just reminded me of that, like, kind of your mention thing, mate. It is possible. But what I said at the start of this season was for Ange to work, it would rely heavily on the new guy, Kyogo. Kyogo hadn't played the game at that point, hitting the ground running. And we've already saw what he's done. For Celtic to win the league, I think Maeda's going to have to hit the ground running with Kyogo being injured. And if he can hit the ground running, I think we could run away for everybody. Yeah. This early, I think we honestly, and I know you're already saying it would be great if we could, but it's no vital, and I agree it's no vital. But see if Celtic can start to tick over and get that speed and that quality all the time, then I think we could start it. As soon as we get into a 7 and an 8, then as you mentioned, Rangers haven't got any pace, and I think as soon as we put one track into their persona, then they'll start to collapse because people start questioning them.
We also forget we were only 5 games in when we played them at Ibrox, and we played them off the pitch.
Aye, we played Kyogo as a winger, remember?
Played Kyogo, but
whoa. We never played them off the pitch.
Well,
let's
be honest. We had the majority of significant chances in that game.
Eddie missed us sit on the first half, right? Aye. And then they bullied us the first 20 of the second. They'd scored, they deserved to score. Then we missed a couple. Kyogo, funny enough, missed a sitter. Yeah. We deserved at least a draw for the game, I'd say, right?
So my point is, that was after 5 games. Yeah. We're going to play them now after 6 months. And when I watch how we play and how we interchange and the type of pressure that we put on opposition teams, the only thing that I fear is we can't break down a packed defence. But that doesn't worry me about the team that's top of the league at the minute, because outside of maybe 1 or 2 players, they don't really have that ability to hit us and hurt us on a break. If we can get that wee bit sharper, and obviously with this extra energy and penetration that we hope we'll get from the new signings, but without a doubt the extra pace that we get with Maeda, if we can get better at breaking a team down that's packing a defence, I think that's our only weakness at this point. They either bludgeon their way to the 1-0, they get a lucky break, or they get a dodgy decision. We won't get any of those 3 because we don't have the tools to do it.
The concern I have for the game isn't about what they have. I mean, I know how they are, right? It's unfortunately it looks as if the Japanese and Australian squads are playing. So Kyogo, even if he is fit, maybe will be with Japan. Maeda ? Hatate ? Ideguchi probably not. He'll probably be with us. But Rogic will probably be going to Australia. So the concern I have is more about a lack of availability of 2 or 3 of our best players this season.
I mean, that's the game to be cancelled.
But Ange just made it clear. He's saying not a chance, which I think he's bang on.
Aye, would that not be lovely? Would that not be lovely? But you right up until the day, you go, no. And then the last moment, you go, you know what? Cancel it.
I think you've got to give at least two weeks notice. I think. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Right. No. Ange is absolutely right. Under no circumstance, no. You play because it's imagine your leader. Ange is the leader. Let's be honest, for these guys and for the club, the leader saying no. Do you know what? Oh no. He's saying no. We'll take him on. We will play. It inspires confidence and belief in your players. And that's what I want to hear from a manager. So that's my point. That's my one concern is potentially that. But do you know what? With Jota hopefully being fit, being there, right? You've got hopefully James is there, Giacomakis, McGregor's there, etc. Hopefully Julian, whatever. I think we've got enough to beat them.
Yes.
Enough to beat them, right? And I think if we score first, and remember, unlike Ibrox, you're probably going to have all Celtic fans at this game.
Yes.
And none of them. Right, they've not had this atmosphere before. They've had nothing like what they're going to experience in the 2nd of February. So, and I don't care what MD says, that is a big advantage to you, right? So let's bring it on.
It'll be interesting. Again, it's a game they don't need. It's like I've mentioned a few times. I don't think Celtic know how to play a game not to lose it. And if this is a game Rangers just don't need to lose. They can quite happily walk away with a draw. No, that's the idea. So it's a whole kind of, we're going to be up against that. I think they'll just sit in, and then we need to make sure we get the first goal. Because if they get the first goal, realistically, the game's probably finished.
So Monday night then, guys. Monday night, first game back. That's us back in again. You're all looking forward to it.
When's Maeda scoring the first goal? Is that what you're going to ask?
Well, back to Celtic Park, you know what I mean? After what happened a few weeks ago. So I must admit, I was pleasantly surprised to see that, because we all had our doubts. But the good news is this bloody Omicron team's a lot less serious, let's just say, for ICU than the previous versions like Delta. So we're all back. 60,000 Monday night. Can't wait. 3 nights time.
Back into Celtic Park for a work event, as they call it these days.
Aye.
Are you looking forward to the disco lights? Monty, you can watch it on the TV also. I noticed we're also doing a special stream. That's nice of Celtic.
I was actually my mate who sunk me on the last 16 of the Conference League, Snafu Tafu. We're talking just this evening, just wrapping up for the week's work, and he says, any plans weekend? Nothing really, but I'm actually really looking forward. And I know I've said this a couple of times through the season. I'm actually really looking forward to just sitting down and watching Celtic. And it's a joy at the minute to watch a team that goes out and plays attacking football. I'd love to be there in person. But yeah, next best thing. Hopefully I'll find a suitable venue to watch a watch a stream of the game because we're just so good to watch at the minute. It's just exciting. It's entertainment. I love it at the minute. Can't wait.
Is it true that Boris Johnson's doing the half-time Paradise Windfall draw on Monday night?
Yeah, it's either him or Paul Heaton. I'm still trying to get Paul Heaton to do it. So we'll try our best to try and get at least one of the People's Champions to do it. And I was just going to say, Monty, don't forget, you can watch a very good stream via our friends at Ripcord TV. They're always available for a trial if anyone's interested. Hector, you looking glad to be back? It's going to cost me a tenner because I need to give poor young Finn behind me his Christmas present because he never turned up at our last game before the Christmas break. So I need to go and get that boy his tenner Christmas present.
Oh, can't wait. I mean, obviously, we're lucky enough that we live kind of Glasgow area, and it's easy enough for us to get to games. So I can't wait. It's been about a month now, isn't it? Since I can't remember the last home game. God, that shows you how bad it is, right? It's just a release to get back and to watch us, and there's excitement again, right? We're going to push on the next few months, and I think it'll be a cracking atmosphere on Monday night, and it'd be great just to go in there. The place be jumping, and let's get a result. Let's get a good result, not just not a 1-0. I'll take anything, take a victory, right? But it'd be great just to go there, a 3 or 4-0, a commanding performance, and say there's a marker. There's a marker. We're back. Here we go. I'd love to see that.
That's interesting you say that there because before on the run up to Christmas, I was saying almost before every game, the guy I go to football with Andy, I'm quite happy. We'll take a 1-0. This get the victory. Just keep ticking it over. Just keep getting. We were a few guys missing, but as you say, Hector, we're maybe looking for a wee 2 goals, then maybe a wee 3 goals, then maybe a 4 goals. If Ralph was on, he would be asking for his typical 7-1. He always likes to bet a wee 7-1. But yeah, it'd be nice to start actually getting the chances and then turning the chances into goals, and then seeing the goal difference, Monty. Suddenly the goal difference column starts to. Because mind, even at the start of the season, we seem to be doing well with goal difference. Then it get paid back.
Yeah, I think for me, just get the result, build the momentum. That's where my head's at. As long as we just, Hector made the point, if we can get 9 out of 9 in advance of the game against them, it really does set it up. And, they may well do the same. It just sets it up now for a proper sort of, a slug out between the two of us. And I genuinely, and I know I'm the optimist, the glass half full, all that, but I don't fear us going up against anyone. And I know Hector talked about the panic of Europe. I don't fear it at all. I think every game I watch Celtic, it looks like we're just improving bit by bit by bit. And that upward trajectory for me fills me full of huge confidence. If we can get a fair wind, we need the odd lucky break, but just get a result on Monday night. Start exactly the way we want to go on. And if we can stick 2 or 3, Hibs will have something to say in the title running. They've got to go there with a bit of a grievance. And I think they've got to play Hibs twice. And Hibs have been kind of shafted against them twice. If I recall, apart from doing them in the semi-final cup, the games, Porteous has made 2 really, really stupid errors against them, and Hibs looked like they were going to take something from them. So Hibs will have something to say, I think, in the title race.
So there's something you just talked about that. We're go back to the earlier conversation, succession planning. Sean Maloney, if he does a good job there, and he's worked for with Martinez with the Belgian national team for the last 2 or 3 years. Obviously, the Celtic credentials as a player and as a coach. I think he coached the 20s, whatever. If it's 2 or 3 years' time and the Hibs are doing really well, there's certainly a guy you keep your eye on. Because his philosophy tends to be, how we play football, I think, the same way.
And right, okay, this day on closing up here, Hector, here's one for you, right? We're looking forward to being at the game on Monday. Monty's looking forward to watching that again. It's going to be it's a winter's night, so to speak. We've got the dark nights, we've got the disco lights. How are Maeda, Ideguchi and Hatate going to feel when they walk into Celtic Park or walk out in Celtic Park? Maybe they may not all make the squad, but they'll all be in the stadium, I imagine, and suddenly they feel that Celtic roar. I mean, it's got
to be a boost, is it not? I mean, it's got to, because I've no doubt, they've spoken to Ange and no doubt Kyogo as well about how he's been on in Scotland, how he adapted and stuff like that. If you walk out, there's 60,000. It's okay seeing the stadium and seeing the complex with the train and reading about Celtic, but seeing a packed stadium with 60,000 fans going mental, I don't care who you are, that must impact you. and it can only galvanise you. I would have thought, make you realise who you've joined and what you've joined. So I think it'd be a great thing for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Monty, you looking forward to it then? Well, I'm just looking forward to seeing the smile on their faces. No, that way. I just think it'll be like Kyogo, just that whole, here we go. I'm up for this. And that's I think that's the point. They've got an attitude of, I'm up for this. I'm no trepidatious about this. I'm up for this.
Yeah, and I think that's, you hit the nail on the head, Desi. This is something that these guys have wanted. Itaguchi had a chance with Leeds, but never really got his chance. For Hatari, he's probably the youngest of the three, and he's only playing professional football 2 years, so this is going to be like a culture shock beyond. But for Maeda, I just get a sense that, maybe it's just because I like the look of the guy, I get a sense that this guy's going to be really exceptional for us. He just has that. He's 26, a little bit older.
No, he's not. No.
Oh, he is.
He's younger than Kyogo.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up. Don't worry, I'll look it up.
Hold on.
I think Kyogo's 26.
Maeda is 24.
24, wow.
He was born on the 20th of October 1997.
Wow.
You're 2 for 2 tonight.
So, yeah, I really have needed to do research better for the next one, you sharp bastards. I just get a sense that this boy's just made for Celtic in the same way that we didn't know about Kyogo. I think this guy's going to be electric for us. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. He's obviously going to start. I don't think the other two will start. I think they'll be on the bench. But Maeda will start, I think, on Monday night. If you're picking a team, who would the other two come in for?
Yeah, if we can get to 2 or 3-0 with 10-15 minutes to go, then you bring them on, don't you? And you take Maeda off to get around the applause and a standing ovation. That's the ideal introduction. No new luck. Hibs will score in the first 5 minutes. They'll be boo. They'll be back to the old Glasgow misery.
But here's the thing: I keep thinking about. Obviously, it's not going to be Monday night, but hopefully not too far in the future. If your front three is going to be Maeda, Jota, and Kyogo, right? The pace and energy. I mean,
yeah, with a logic behind saying who wants it. I'll put it any way you like it. Who wants it? Any way you like it. I'll put it exactly on a dime for you. That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
So okay, so I think we're all agreed. We've got a lot to look forward to in 2022. We agree on that?
100%.
So yeah, fingers crossed. And again, folks, thanks very much for listening. Hopefully Ralph can join us in the next podcast where we get to hopefully review a couple of the new Japanese signings. I don't think we'll see Johnny Kenny. I think he'll be playing in the B squad, but fingers crossed he does well. They've been doing not too bad. And then we can catch up hopefully before the Huns game or just after the Huns game and discuss it. The Bobo Glint European tickets did go on sale, Hector. I hope you've already filled in your online subscription to get your European ticket. Nice and early. You've only got a couple of weeks.
No, not yet, but we're looking forward to it. We'll definitely.
Remember, if Monty's coming over, he'll pay for Daniel's ticket. That's an agreed.
Last date has to be the last date.
Courtesy of Spadetown, Bury Lurgan.
Has to be a quarter final. I'm paying for nothing until the quarter final.
Remember that, kids. Spadetown, Bury Lurgan. Under 16s welcome. All right, folks. So thanks very much for listening. My name is Desmond. I'll just take an opportunity to thank Monty C. Burns and Hector Bandido for joining us tonight. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, Desi. Cheers, Monty. Thanks, guys.
And again, folks, thanks very much. Please subscribe and like where possible. Tell your friends if you like the podcast and tell us if you don't at etims.contact@gmail.com. Thanks very much. Good night.